Good evening, everybody. My name is Jay Collins with the Planning Commission, and we're going to start this meeting of the Riverview Community Plan Update in just a couple of minutes as we wait for the virtual meeting room to fill in. Well, again, good evening, everybody. My name is Jay Collins with the Planning Commission, and I'd like to be the first to welcome you to our first of our second series of Riverview Community Plan Update meetings. This update of your community plan is at the direction of the Board of County Commissioners in conjunction with Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority, who is also looking at a facility enhancement along US 301 to move the Leroy Selman Expressway down through Brandon into Riverview to Big Bend Road. And we'll have some conversations about that a little bit later. But again, we are the Planning Commission and not THEA, so we can go ahead and try to answer any questions you may have on that issue. But again, please do bring those questions to THEA. So tonight we're doing a virtual meeting. Later on this week and weekend, we'll be in Riverview having some in-person meetings. And for the virtual meeting, we do have Microsoft Teams. That's what we're using tonight. So we would like to hear from you, and the best way for you to actually contact us if you have a question or a statement, or you need help in the meeting because maybe you can't hear us, see us, or something is not quite working for you, is to use the chat function. And you'll see the chat function either on the top of your screen or on the bottom of your screen, depending upon how your toolbar is laid out. And there you will be able to put a message in, and that message will be seen not just by staff, but by everybody else that's in the meeting. So please keep that in mind when you're actually talking to us or voicing your opinion. You're voicing it to every single person that is on this call tonight. This meeting is also being recorded, and we will have this recording available on the project website. You'll also notice that there's a couple of other different buttons that we have. Please take note of the raise hand, the microphone, and the camera. So we're going to talk about a little bit later some question and answer session. And during the Q&A session, if you have a question that you want to go ahead and ask us, please go ahead and raise your hand. That raised hand will go in an order, and we'll go ahead and turn your mic on so that you can go ahead and ask question to everybody. But at any time you want during the presentation, you can go ahead and put in a question into the chat, and staff will try to answer that during the meeting. And then also when we are done with the meeting and we're in the Q&A section, we will go into that meeting chat and we'll actually read some of that off to the group. Again, also, hopefully everybody is hearing us and seeing us. If you are not, there are 3 different ways that you may be able to rectify that. And that is to go into your microphone settings, your camera settings, or the more, where you will get into your audio settings and your visuals. Now, we always want to remind you that when we turn on and off a microphone, we're not actually turning on and off your microphone. It's the ability for Teams to be able to hear. So you need to have your microphone on where you are on your computer for your microphone to work when we turn it on or off. So a little bit about tonight's Riverview meeting. We're going through the overview and an introduction right now. There's a video presentation that we have. As you know, normally when we give these meetings, whether we are virtual or in person, we usually do a presentation that we have. Tonight, we're doing a video presentation. After we go through that presentation, we'll do some activities. We want you to get out your phone. This is a Mentimeter survey, a Mentimeter activity, which means you're going to go through a survey and an activity with us, and you will be inputting your answers in real time, and everybody in this call will be able to see those answers. What we're working on tonight, a little bit about your background, is we're working on the vision in your plan, the goals in your plan, and we'll introduce the concept map of your plan. And these are all adopted parts to your community plan. Then we'll have that Q&A that we talked about with TPC staff, and then we'll talk about some of the next steps. Now, again, this is the 4th community meeting that we've had, the first of the second series. We have the 2 meetings coming up this weekend and into the next week, and then we'll see you again in 2026. When we see you in 2026, We're going to have some draft policy for you to actually review, hopefully in the spring. So again, tell your neighbors, we're here tonight virtually. October the 11th, we'll be at the Riverview Civic Center on the south side of the river there. And then October 14th, we'll be at Sperlino YMCA down there at Big Bend Road. Also, if you go to the website for the website for the project, you'll see a survey that we have. This is the fall survey. We use these surveys to build upon some of the previous work we've already done with you as we work through. So what we did in the first meetings is we talked about basically what are some things that you like and don't like about your community. We're going to drill down into that in tonight's meeting, and we have some further refinement about that in a survey. And out of all of this information, that's how we build some of that new policy work with you. So again, my name is Jay Collins with the Planning Commission, and I'm about to turn this over to Andrea Pappendrew with the Planning Commission, who's the project manager.
Thank you, Jay. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Pappendrew. Victoria Duran is also on the meeting tonight. You will see her, myself, and Jay throughout the Riverview Community Plan update process. So we're going to start the meeting, as Jay mentioned, by doing a short video, which is going to explain the community plan update and the open house exercises that we have tonight. So give me 1 minute and I will play the video. Hi, I'm Andrea Pappendrew.
And I'm Victoria Durand. We're with the Planning Commission.
Thank you for taking the time to hear about the Riverview Community Plan update requested by your elected officials. Welcome to Riverview, Florida, a growing and vibrant community located in southeastern Hillsborough County. Today, over 139,000 people call Riverview home, and that number is projected to climb to over 165,000 by 2050. The Riverview Community Plan was created in 2005 and covers nearly 56 square miles. The community plan is bordered on the north by Bloomingdale Avenue and the Alafaya River, on the east by Bomboyette and Boyette Road, on the west by Hillsborough Bay and I-75, and generally on the south by Little Bullfrog Creek and Baum Road. Community plans, for which the county has 22, are created and by the direction of your elected officials. The Board of County Commissioners are 7 elected officials who have the authority to plan for future growth and development. The board requested staff update the 2005 Riverview Community Plan in conjunction with the US 301 Selman Expressway study. A separate study is being conducted by the Tampa-Hillsborough Expressway Authority to study the possible extension of the Leroy-Selman Expressway on US Highway 301 to Big Bend Road. Tampa-Hillsborough Expressway Authority has provided a flyer with details on the study. Per the board's direction, staff will be the Riverview Community Plan along US Highway 301 in terms of land use and mobility options in association with the potential expressway extension. A community plan is an extension of the comprehensive plan that provides specific policy to a defined area. The community plan represents the vision and goals of what residents want the area to become in the next 10 to 15 years. The plan is citizen-driven and based on what the community desires to prioritize for the future. Being in a community plan does not affect your school district, mailing address, zip code, tax information, or property zoning or land use. It does not allocate funds for infrastructure projects. Riverview's 2005 vision shows a desire to be a family-oriented and walkable community where people of all ages can safely live, work, and play. This includes a town center, a strong sense of community identity, and protection of the Alafaya River. The plan divides the area into 7 districts, each with its own vision for future development. One of those districts is the 301 corridor. Per the 2005 plan, the corridor is envisioned as a gateway into Riverview with tree-lined streets, bike lanes, wide sidewalks, and a mix of businesses. The existing 2005 plan also consists of 13 goals and strategies intended to enhance a multitude of community priorities, including community character, economic development, transportation, and the environment. The update will ask the community to reassess these goals, perhaps identify new ones, and prioritize them for the future. Some of this work began with the first round of open houses earlier this year in March and April. Over the last 10 years, Hillsborough County has invested approximately $124 million, not including water and wastewater projects in the Riverview community. The county has spent approximately $98 million on roadway corridor improvement projects. Riverview Drive was recently resurfaced, and Big Bend Road is slated for a $44 million corridor improvement project. The county is developing a new 25-acre park along the Alafaya River. 3 fire stations have been renovated or opened, and a future K-8 school is being planned on Rodine Road. A report by the Community and Infrastructure Planning Department with further details on these projects and other projects in Riverview is available on the project website.
Planning Commission staff kicked off engagement with 3 community meetings in late March, early April, including 1 virtual meeting. 2 online surveys ran from late March to mid-July, gathering over 650 responses. The second survey specifically focused on the US 301 district. The results showed 95% self-reported that they live in Riverview, 21% live and work in Riverview, and 52% of survey respondents have lived in Riverview for over 10 years. A SWOT analysis was conducted to assess Riverview's strengths and weaknesses today and tomorrow's threats and opportunities. Survey takers were asked to review Riverview's 13 community goals grouped under key themes and place them under the SWOT categories. Infrastructure and public services, which include schools, parks and recreation, and quality public facilities, was the only category to appear under all 4 of the SWOT categories. Residents highlighted additional strengths including community character, economic development, and environment and recreation. Additional key areas of focus that residents highlighted were transportation and connectivity, community character, and economic development. The second survey was focused just on the US Highway 301 corridor that runs through the middle of Riverview. Survey takers ranked improving roads, sidewalks and infrastructure, developing more parks, recreation and green spaces, and expanding and improving public transportation as the top 3 priorities. For additional survey results, please check out the project website. Thank you for coming to the Community Open House for the Riverview Community Plan Update. We have several exercises which are contained within your agenda packet. If you didn't receive an agenda packet, please visit the sign-in table. There is also an online survey, the QR code is on your agenda, and paper copies are in the back of the room. Please start to the right of the room with the vision exercise. Review the existing 2005 vision for Riverview. What should Riverview's vision be for 2040? Next is the goal setting exercise, using dots to rank your top 3 goal topics.
Finally, you are invited to sit down at the map exercise and talk with your neighbors. Fill in the vision ad-lib exercise in your agenda packet. We invite you to draw on the maps and propose ideas for Riverview. For example, how do you and your neighbors move around the community? What should Riverview's future community identity be? Are there changes needed for parks, recreation, and green space? The results of these exercises will be used to craft the draft vision, goals, and strategies that make up the Riverview Community Plan. Additionally, county staff are also here today to answer any questions. Your feedback today is crucial to update the existing community plan policies or create new policy. Planning Commission staff will be back in the spring of 2026 with draft changes and ideas based on your feedback today. Hi, I'm Andrea Pappinger.
All right, so that video is on the project website, which I believe Victoria has placed in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the next portion of our meeting, which is the meeting activities. So in the video at the end, it kind of explained what the meeting activities for the in-person open house exercises are going to be for the upcoming 2 meetings. We're going to do those virtually today on menti.com. So while I'm switching over, please go ahead and get your phones out. You might also want to get a pen and paper for the upcoming activities. Can someone from staff please let me know if you can see the Menti?
We can see it.
All right, thank you. So we're going to go through a set of activities today designed to get you thinking about what the Riverview community vision, goals, and priorities are for the next 20 years. The feedback from these activities will be used to create the draft vision and goals for the updated Riverview Community Plan. So go ahead and go to menti.com, or you can scan the QR code. And once you get to the website, it's going to ask you to input a code. I'm going to ask Victoria or Jay to go ahead and put that log information in the chat as well for folks. So that code is 3516-9103. Again, that code is 3516-9103. And I'm already seeing some thumbs up, so it looks like a few people are able to log on. We're gonna wait a few minutes for the rest of the folks. So based on the feedback that we get from you guys tonight, we're gonna be back in the spring for another round of community meetings based on with draft changes and ideas based on our feedback today and the upcoming in-person meetings. So after this exercise, we are going to have that Q&A session. However, please feel free to put any questions that you have or comments in the chat. Jay and Victoria are online to respond. For today's Mentimeter activities, Menti isn't going to show your name, but it will show your answers for everybody to see. So please keep that in mind when you're submitting. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to the first question. If it still has the code at the top of the screen if you need a few extra minutes to join. For the first question, do you live, work, or own a business in Riverview? And you can select all that apply. Looks like the majority of folks so far live in Riverview. Still showing 5 people that have not responded, so we're going to give it another minute here. All right, so it looks like majority you are online tonight, live in Riverview. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next question. All right, so for these next set of questions, we're going to kind of do a vision activity, and this is based on the 2005 community plan, the adopted community plan vision for review today. So this is the time I kind of encourage you guys to get a pen and paper out, because the vision, the list that you see on the screen comes from the existing 2005 plan vision. The list of bullets is what we're going to ask questions on moving forward. So if there's a specific item that really speaks to you, write it down. We're going to be asking questions about what you would change or add or remove to the vision. Victoria is going to post this in the chat if you would like to reference it moving forward as well. So the 2005 community plan vision is also composed of a concept map. So that's what you see next to you on the screen, the Riverview District Concept Map. It identifies distinct visions for 7 districts. So in 2005, community consensus was to create this map. For example, the 301 corridor is in purple. The downtown area that is in red, so that's the area they see as downtown. Industrial is in purple. Mixed use is in pink. Green is the riverfront, yellow is residential, and the dark green is open space. So this is the vision. The whole community plan is on our website from 2005. That is what we are updating. And it has 13 goals and multiple strategies. So I'm going to give everyone a minute just to, if there's a specific bullet, like I said, that speaks to you, please write it down so you can answer the upcoming questions. And if I'm moving too fast at any point, please throw it in the chat and staff will let me know. So I don't want to keep anyone from being able to put their thoughts in. All right, I'm going to keep moving then. So the first question that we have today, what makes Riverview feel like home? What should stay the same? What should be kept from that 2005 vision? When you're thinking of the next 20 years for Riverview, what should the vision in Riverview be in the next 20 years? What should be kept from the original 2005 vision? And you can throw in a sentence, you can throw in a few words, just whatever, however you'd like to express yourself. If you were with us for the original first set of open house meetings in March, there was a SWOT activity at those meetings and with the online survey in the spring. And there are, what came out of that SWOT was people listed the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for Riverview. So that'd be the strengths and weaknesses for Riverview today, and then threats and opportunities for Riverview in the future. So we did make word clouds out of those answers, and Victoria is going to put those in the chat as well to help folks with any, kind of help you get ideas for these questions, because I know we're asking some very broad questions here. I'm seeing a couple answers on lot sizes, downtown area along the river. A couple answers on natural beauty and parks, on natural habitats. I'm gonna wait another minute, let you guys think and see if we get any other responses. You got about 9 folks that have responded so far. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next question. So what needs to be updated or improved? And what should be removed? And these questions are different. So when you're putting your answer in, if you wouldn't mind putting improved, updated, removed next to your answer. What should be changed for the vision for the next 20 years for Riverview? Improved transit options. Any other thoughts or comments before we go to the next question? All right, I'm going to move to the next question. And then the last question for the vision, what new ideas should shape the future? What's missing from the vision today? And I know a few of you might have thrown this answer in some of the other questions as well. Feel free to reiterate or add some new ideas. Nobody has any ideas on adding anything to the vision? All right, I'll give it another minute and then we're going to move on to the next exercise. All right. For the next question, I'm going to turn it over to Victoria.
Hi, everyone. So for this activity, we're going to do a little bit of a goal setting exercise. You may see some of the themes on here, and you may find them familiar from the spring survey if you took that, or the in-person meetings if you attended those. So we took the 13 original goals from the Riverview Community Plan, and we condensed them into these 7 goals plus other, which is why you're seeing 8 different ones on there. So the first one being transportation and connectivity, road, that is anything that has to do with roads, sidewalks, trails, bike lanes, and transit options. Next is infrastructure and public services, which is parks, libraries, youth centers, community spaces, schools, and then all of your public utilities like water, wastewater, solid waste. Next is development standards. That's all of your, when you think of this, you can think of your commercial corridors. Think of what type of signage, height, mass, buffers, and densities you want to see, as well as walkable centers and different housing types. Then recreation and environmental protection. This is protecting and restoring the Alafaya River, wetlands, public access to river, trails and greenways, splash pads, dog parks, all of the above. Economic development has to do with supporting small businesses, attracting diverse industries, different retail and dining and entertainment options. Then there's community character, which is preserving Riverview's small town identity and charm through historic preservation, creating gateways, public art, and gathering spaces. And finally, there's agriculture, which can be supporting farmers markets, feed stores, and agricultural businesses. And then if you think that we are missing something, you can select other and then put your option in the chat. So for this, as I see that many of you have already done, go ahead and select your top 3 choices, and you can change the way that you want to rank them, whichever one you want to be 1, 2, and 3. And then again, if you do select other, you can select that and then type whatever you want your other to be in the chat. And with this will help us shape and create the goals for the future plan.
Looks like transportation is at the top here. Any other responses? I'm going to give 30 more seconds and I'm going to keep it moving. Want to make sure that we have time at the end for questions and answers.
We will also be doing these activities at our in-person meetings where you can give us more feedback. So if you would like to also attend those, we will be having one on Saturday at the Riverview Civic Center and then Tuesday at the Spirulino, hope I'm saying that right, YMCA.
Thank you, Victoria. All right, so for the next 6 questions, we're going to ask you some ad libs, ask you guys to fill in the blanks. So this is all building off of one another. So we started with the first questions on the vision. And then the last question we just had from Victoria was on kind of the goal and the goal topics. Now we're going to ask you guys to take it a little bit of a step further and ask you about these specific goal topics and ask you to fill in the blank. And this is going to help us get into some of that strategy language. So the answers you're providing for all of these activities really helps to set the goals, the vision, and the draft strategies for the updated Riverview Community Plan. So for the first question, in the next 20 years, I envision Riverview's transportation as, and how would you fill in the blank? So an example, in the next 20 years, I envision Riverview's transportation as enhanced due to the construction of additional roadways, sidewalks, and bicycle lanes. And again, it doesn't have to be a complete sentence. It can be a few words, bullets, however you'd like to answer the question. And since we have 6 of these, we're going to do 1 minute apiece to keep it moving so that we make sure we have time to answer any of the Q&A that you guys are throwing in the chat. Any other thoughts or comments for transportation? Okay. Looks like more options, safety, congestion, some common themes coming through. All right, we're gonna move to the next question. If you aren't able to respond as we're going, no worries. You can also throw it in the chat. Or if you're, as Victoria said, you can come to one of our in-person meetings, and we also have a survey. So a lot of options to give us feedback. There we go. In the next 20 years, how would I describe the infrastructure, libraries, parks and recreation, public spaces, schools, public utilities as, and these questions directly correlate to the goal topics that were just in the slide you voted on to rank. All right, any other thoughts or comments for infrastructure? Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next question. Next 20 years, I would describe the natural environment in the Alafaya River as, keep in mind when talking about the next 20 years, for describing these is what would you want to see the community have? So what would you want to see the natural environment in Alafaya River in Riverview be in the next 20 years? Preserved. Protected, preserved. Looks like a common theme so far. I'm gonna give it another 30 seconds and we're gonna keep moving here. Go on to the next question. So next 20 years, how I would describe economic development as, and please fill in the blank. All right. Give it a few more seconds and we're gonna keep moving. If you're throwing in answers, enjoyable, where we can actually live and work, please feel free to give us a little bit more description. What do you mean by that? All right. The next question. The next 20 years, Riverview's community character, some small town feel, historic cultural resources will be, and then please fill in the blank. And again, these questions are, what do you want Riverview to look like in the next 20 years? I'm gonna give this one another 30 seconds. We're gonna keep moving so we don't run out of time for tonight's meeting. I'm gonna keep moving. If you still want to answer the question, you can feel free to throw it in the chat. Wait a few seconds. I see a couple more people popping in here. The answers. All right. And then in the next 20 years, how would you describe agriculture? If you are throwing your answer in chat, please just make sure you put what question you are addressing with your answer. Thank you. We're going to give it another few seconds and we're going to move on to our last question. All right, so our last question for the evening. So the map on the screen is a base concept map. So the feedback from the community at tonight's meeting and the upcoming in-person meetings is going to help develop this map. So we have, if you come to one of the in-person meetings, we're going to have this draft concept map printed out, and we're going to ask residents to kind of draw out their ideas or their visions for Riverview. If you're not able to attend the in-person meetings, staff, we're going to be back in the spring with a draft concept map based on all the feedback that we gather. But for this last question, think back on all your answers to the previous questions, the vision, the goals, the ad-lib statements. What should be added based on those answers to the concept map? So if you said something about economic development and, you know, a town center should be somewhere, a downtown should be in Riverview. Well, where should that downtown be for the person that put in location downtown? Could you expand upon that? Where should that be? Should there be a green belt, trails? These are just some examples. So think back on your previous answers and what would you add to this draft concept map? How would you mark it up for Riverview? And this map and other maps are on our project website. Victoria can post that link again as well. Okay. Yeah, please be as specific as possible with, you know, locations and areas for these comments. Thank you. And give everyone a minute to think, and then we're gonna move on to the Q&A portion. All right, any last thoughts, comments? All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn it back over to Jay.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. So that was great. That did a lot of just what we wanted it to do. There were some really good conversations that were going in the chat back and forth with people with their opinions on Riverview, past, present, and future, and also for what we saw in the Menti. So one other thing that would be helpful in this is if you have any comments or opinions on the flow of the meeting and what we just did, please put that also into the chat. That would help us. One of the questions that we did get was about environmental protection on the Alafia River. So I would like to go ahead and address that. And then also, if you have a question, please raise your hand right now. And when I'm done with this, we'll go ahead and allow Daniel the opportunity to unmute folks and we can have some back and forth conversations there. Environmental protection on the Alafia River. Again, the Alafia works in the same manner as any river in unincorporated Hillsborough County for environmental. Now, specifically, what are some other steps that we can do here? We can look at stormwater along that river and what are some ways that we can have additional protections for stormwater. Also, there are monies that are being used right now for the removal of septic tanks so that we can bring water and sewer into these areas that may today be on septic tanks. Also, I do know that, you know, there are apartments that are going up. There are new businesses that are going up on the river. So part of what we were asking about that with different types of uses and different types of economic development is what does the community want to see on the Alafia River? Because if this community had all of a sudden said, we are starving for economic development, we are starving for jobs, we might ask a question and pose it to everybody and say, well, what about working waterfront? Is that something you would want to see? And you would actually want to see an expansion of commercial and industrial uses on your river? I don't think you do. I think everybody would say no, because that would actually be worse for our environment. We'd rather see some residential if they can build residential on it. So that is part of what we're having the conversations with here is what in the future would you like to see happen with your community? I know some people would like to say change nothing, let it stay the same, or expand the roads. But again, there are people that have property, they bought that property and they have certain rights to that property. So that's that yin and yang and give and take that we work with. One other thing that we did have some conversation in the chat and also I believe online was the elevated expressway for Thea, the elevated expressway for 301. That is a project by Thea, Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority. We are the Planning Commission charged by the Board of County Commissioners to update your community plan. The Expressway Authority is a separate study. They could not be here tonight. They are going through what is called a procurement right now to actually get a consultant to do that work. So in 2026, they should be having public meetings. We will have public meetings. We will invite them to our meetings, and we hope that they will invite us to their meetings so that, again, we can learn from you about uses along 301 while you're telling folks from Thea what you think about whether it should occur on 301 as an elevated expressway at grade or not at all. So that's some of that give and take that we look forward to having conversations with everybody on 301 in 2026. And with that, I can turn this over to Daniel, who can go ahead and work if anybody has their hand raised. Well, I'm not seeing that anyone has their hand raised.
If you want to ask
Nancy,
a
are you seeing
question,
it?
please hit the raised hand at the top of your screen so we can see it. Thank you.
I just tried it myself and it worked just to make sure.
If you're shy like me, you can also type it in the chat and we can answer it too.
If you just aren't sure, you want some more time to think about all this, I'm going to put the fall survey link in as well. So please give us more feedback, more comments. And for those that did have a question on this on the expressway, the Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority did give us a flyer and a fact sheet to share, and Victoria posted that in the chat as well. Thank you, Victoria.
So I see Dustin has put in, my question is, what plan was there for growth in Riverview? So a couple of different things about that. One, your community plan is from 2005, and that's part of the reason why we're having this conversation with you now is to update that community plan, which is 20 years old. Also, the comprehensive plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County is the long-range growth plan for the county. It is updated, I think it was just updated in December or January of this year for the first time in 7 or 8 years, perhaps even longer. And that holds, again, land use, transportation, environmental concerns, schools, a whole litany of different things that basically make up a community. And also, comprehensive planning is a requirement of the state. So we are required to actually have those plans and work with the community. And I think part of it is it's difficult at times sometimes to look behind the curtain and see everything else that is working out with planning that we have here. South County in general, again, the whole of South County that we have, whether you're in the community of Riverview, whether you're in Apollo Beach, whether you're in Gibsonton, Ruskin, Sun City Center, all of these areas have been in what we call the urban service boundary for 30, 40 years. And so they have had the ability to grow some of these densities that we see here with these subdivisions. So many of the subdivisions that have been built in South County that actually were built in these last 5 or 10 years, many of them were actually rezoned 15, 20 years ago prior to. So there is some back and forth and some history for how some of the things are built today in South County were actually approved years ago. So there is some catch up that we're all playing on it. And what did that plan look like, Dustin? If you're talking about the Riverview's community plan, you can see Riverview's community plan today. You can go to our website, to the actual project site, and we have the Riverview community plan there. Riverview's community plan is one of 22 adopted community plans that we have in unincorporated Hillsborough County, because as we often say, Riverview is not Town and Country. Town and Country is not Brandon. Brandon is not Apollo Beach. All of these communities are slightly different. They have different priorities for each other, and they come at growth and development differently. The comprehensive plan is more of a holistic look at things and is looking at more of a level field across unincorporated county. So to get a little bit of your priority and what you see as your community as being, I guess, being special, if you will, is something that community planning does. Well, and I guess with that, it is 7 o'clock, so we want to be respectful of everybody's time. But on behalf of myself and Andrea and Victoria and Daniel, we certainly thank you for spending some time with us, and we hope that you will be able to come out and visit us either this Saturday morning or next Tuesday evening. And again, please look for updates on the website, the survey that's on the website that you can take, and to see some of the results that we have of all of this great work that you've been putting in with us. We'll see you out there, if not this weekend, in 2026.
Yeah, and if you had a question, if there was anything that got missed, our contact information is in there, and we're happy to have a conversation or respond to any questions you have.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, everybody.